Where are we going here? Good morning, everyone. How are you? So happy to have you with me this morning. I'm so happy to be back. I both missed Smart Start and you, but I had an amazing vacation, and that was great. Let's see who's with us. Hi, Raid. Hi, Pilar. Jacob, good morning. So happy to see you here. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Hi, Stephanie. So happy to have you here. Oh, so I'm back from vacation. It was transformative and amazing. Spent a lot of time in nature. Let's see what's Jacob saying. Oh, thank you. This is me. Here's a little trick I have. This is me. Let me just give you a transition. I'm going to do full screen. Trying to make myself. Good morning, Stephanie. This is me trying to fight off not feeling as well as I'd like to feel today. You know, the art world suffered a devastating loss of the incredible artist Charles McGill. We were putting together a show for the Flatiron. I'm just still reeling from his loss. And Jacob, you won't believe it, but I'm so tired. You know, a lot of creativity this weekend putting together Serena's show, which is always great. But, you know, after it, you just kind of are exhausted. Went to the Newburgh Museum yesterday and saw an amazing exhibit by an artist, Fred Wilson. I think I'm going to cover that for Cheddar. So I'll talk about that. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Elvise. Hi, Iris. Thank you all for joining. So today, as you know, is Monday, and that means Van Gogh. And, you know, we had gone to the West Coast. So we flew into Vegas and then immediately caught a flight to San Francisco. From there, we drove down to the Carmel by the sea, and it is the most amazing landscape. We went to a place called Point Lobos, and I'll do another show about it. I'll show pictures. And we ended up at Santa Barbara for a wedding, and then we went through the Mojave Desert. What was so stunning about the entire trip, among so many things, but the trees. The trees just call to you. Just amazing trees. So I thought today we would look at Van Gogh and his polar trees. Serena, just the person I want to talk about for a second. Serena just joined us. Is that Richard? Wait, let me put on my glasses. I'm sorry, everybody. Richard. Hi, Richard. So I want to talk about these trees in relationship to Serena's husband, Phil, who I only know as Mr. Busky. So, Serena, what is Phil's last name so I can give him a proper introduction? Because hi, John, I want to do something. I'm going to bring Phil on live, or I'm going to go to Phil's studio and talk to him. So what happened was, Phil Coyle, thank you. So we had been installing at the Flatiron, and one of Serena's pieces that was coming to the Flatiron on Saturday we installed was at a client's house. I had sold it before it was going to show, which happens a lot. You know, I sell a piece to a collector, and then the opportunity arises for it to be exhibited, which is a phenomenal thing for the collector because it raises the value of the piece, depending upon what kind of exhibit it's going into. If it's going into a museum exhibit, that certainly affects very positively the price of the piece. And yay, Jacob, you got it. And so with the Flatiron being such a public space, I want to see what Jacob says the next spot. With the Flatiron, because it's such a public exhibition, as I mentioned, if you saw any of the videos the other day, 250,000 people a day from the street see the exhibit. Now that Cheddar is there, we have millions of people. So it's very exciting. Good morning, Christina. Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry, I'm going to put my glasses on. Yes, okay. So anyway, So this certainly affects the Serena's piece in terms of its secondary market price, meaning if it were to resell. So the client, of course, okayed it. And Phil and I took a ride up to the client's apartment, got the piece, and went back to the Flatiron while Serena and her daughter Lila were kind of organizing the space. On the way, I had the most amazing conversation with Phil. Phil, I've decided, is brilliant. But Serena already knew that. And I told him that I had this just, my life for a long time, because I was a private trainer a long time ago, one of the first private trainers in the city. I had a huge clientele of movie stars and very high profile people. And I did this for many years, putting myself through school and supporting myself very well. So I was telling Phil that I really, in life, two aspects of my life for so long have been, exercise, fundamentally how important exercise is to us, and being flexible and being strong, and then looking at art, and the viewing of art. And Phil said it's like a tree, that exercise roots us. It's the root that brings us to the ground and into the ground, so that our lives are rooted and strong. And that the viewing of art is the extension of the tree, is the branches of the tree that expand us. Now, of course, I wish I said that, but I didn't. Phil Coyle did. So it's that rooting and that expansion. And I just love that. So I thought for today, we're going to look at the pollard birches of Van Gogh. And I saw so many trees on our trip, and I'm a tree hugger. They just call to me. And so, yeah, it is beautiful. Isn't it, Stephanie? And I'm going to expand that with Phil, because I want you guys to hear this from Phil directly. Phil is Serena, please weigh in on this so I get the words right. They have a company called Omchi Wellness, and Phil has put together a program in which the 5 elements he talks about are all encompassed in working out and training. And I'm just so excited about all of this. Yeah, Serena, write in whatever you want me to say, but I'm going to bring Phil on because I can't do him justice on my own. So let's look at Van Gogh's trees. So we were in the Mojave Desert, and later on this week, I'm going to show more pictures and things and put it together. It was such a busy weekend with working on Serena's show, which I love, and then going to see Fred Wilson at the Neuberger Museum at Purchase, SUNY Purchase. Serena, you've got to go see Fred Wilson. Anybody from Westchester or around, please see Fred Wilson at SUNY Purchase, the Neuberger Art Museum. I think I'll do a piece on it for Cheddar. Anyway, let's take a look at these pollard birches, and I'd like to take a look at them with the notion of what Phil talked about, that being rooted into the ground, yet having the flexibility to allow the expansion. So I'm going to read you a little bit about what we have here about them. Van Gogh loved the pollard trees and their gnarled trunks. They feature prominently in many of his paintings and drawings, including this one. He compared a row of pollard trees to the procession of orphan men. What he meant was that nature had a soul of its own. And so I want to show you that. I got to do a little research after after our day installing, and this is the original letter to Theo on top. This is exactly where this letter, again, I've never seen this work from Van Gogh. I'm blown away. Oh, thank you so much, Christina. Art for Tree Huggers, Tom. It is. Hi, Francie, now that I have my glasses on. So yeah, thank you, Christina. Thank you for that. I'm trying to show everybody work that they otherwise would not have seen. So this letter, he writes, "My dear Theo," and he writes this on December 10th, 1882. And he says, as you can see, today I worked on an old drawing from Etan. That's the place where he was living at the time, because I saw the pollard willows again in a similar leafless state here in the field. And what I had seen last year came to mind again. Sometimes I long so much to do landscape, just as one would a long walk to refresh oneself. And in all of nature, in trees, for instance, I see expression and a soul, as it were. A row of pollard willows sometimes resemble a procession of orphan men. And then he just goes on. I probably should have cut this one off. Young corn can have something ineffably pure and gentle about it that evokes an emotion that aroused by the expression of a sleeping child, for example. Actually, I'm really glad I didn't cut that off. So, oh, thank you, Stephanie. So I think that this is so important because one of the things that I learned in the Mojave Desert, apart from what I just learned from Phil, what I learned from an archaeologist, and I have a video of him that I'll put together about the Mojave Desert for you later this week, was that in terms of, let's say, the natives, they didn't come to the tree or the rock or the world as if they were a different part of nature, but they came to it as their ancestors were the tree, were the rock, were the nature. And honestly, I feel like, how amazing is that? That Van Gogh captures a little bit of that essence. This European man, well educated, upper middle class family, comes to this notion of this tree in nature and the soul and looking for that and wanting to be a part of that. I just love that. I love that so much about him. Yes, connecting to the earth. Exactly. Hi, Linda. So I want to show you another. And this is a watercolor. The other is a watercolor as well, just not as much color. So let's look at this one. This is the willow, the pollard willow. And I'm going to read a little bit about it. And please remember, this is a conversation. I'm not sure it's so interesting hearing me speak all the time. So whatever you have to say, I want to hear it. Van Gogh came across this spot during one of his long walks in the area around his house in The Hague. He wanted to use the dead pollard willow beneath a threatening sky to create a somber landscape with a railway signalman who, according to the artist, is thinking how gloomy it is today. Isn't that interesting? Pollard willow is a detailed watercolor. On the horizon, Van Gogh carefully drew the railway depot at Ringspoor Station in pen and ink. The lampposts, the locomotive from which smoke arises, and the small figure of the signalman with his flag are all rendered with great precision. Do we see that? He then completed the scene using watercolors. The path running alongside the willow is black with coal dust. Van Gogh produced his first large, fully fledged watercolors in The Hague, and this was the one with which he was most satisfied. And he wrote to Theo, "I've attacked that old giant of a pollard willow, and I believe it has turned out to be the best of the watercolors." You know, so he says he attacked it. You know, that's his way of discussing the way his art. But I feel like he attacks it in his art, but I feel that he's so attached to these trees. You know, there's such a soul for him, as he stated himself, in these trees, and he renders them in that way. And I think that, as Phil Coyle said, and I want you to go to Om Chi Wellness, right, Serena? It's the website, Om Chi Wellness, Facebook, Instagram. You know, these trees, the roots run so deep, and yet even this dead willow, you have these branches that are flexible and expanding. So we have this notion of being rooted in the earth and letting ourselves expand. And so I just thought for Monday that this is kind of, as I put this together yesterday and over the weekend, having thought about Serena's show and having thought about Charles and missing him already so much, I'm going to put together a tribute show for Charles. It's a little difficult for me to do right now because I'm not sure that I just need a little bit more distance from it. But just that notion of rooting and expanding and kind of facing this week, having, dealing with loss, but also a lot of creativity. Excuse me, I just want to see what everyone's saying. If you look at the tree, it sort of looks like it is giving a thumbs up to the sky. Jacob, I love that. Stephanie says the tree is still so strong in its message, even though it's no longer living. Oh my God, Stephanie, thank you for that. That's how I feel about Charles. That's how I feel about the art that we look at. That is so true. It's still, the message is so clear. It's so there. Christina, this harkens to many of his pieces. Yes, his use of perspective by featuring a path, walk-away street, maybe as a way to communicate his seeking. Yeah, I think that that's very true. I think that that is very true. He was always seeking, moving from his pen and ink to his watercolor, then to full-on color, seeking the best of himself as an artist. He was so driven, this artist, as most good artists are, extremely driven. But I think he takes it to the next level. I love these comments. They just deepen my work, my perspective, and the show. So I really thank you for that. Please watch Between Bells today at Cheddar, because that's the unveiling of Serena's work. And I'm going to be on, I'm not going to be on the show today, I'm just going to be on the stream so I can add to any comments or anything. And we can talk about the show more and explain. We have a name for the show. Serena, do you want to unveil the name of the show? Do you want to write it? Are you still there with us? I hope so. I'm going to let Serena write the name of the show. It was so much fun putting this name together, because in this Flatiron space, that's when everything kind of happens for me as a curator. I don't name a show before we go in and actually install. So we sat around the table. It was Jean, Serena, Lila, Phil, and myself, and we thought about what is this show about. We didn't think about it. We talked about it. It was such a brainstorming session. Lila was holding the cheddar, and we were brainstorming, and we came up with confluent markings. And I'm going to let you ponder that before I actually explain it, which I'll talk about it a lot on Cheddar on Friday. I believe I'm going on Friday. So everyone have a really amazing and wonderful Monday. Even if it's not so wonderful or amazing, we're here, we're alive, we're well, we're breathing. There's the opportunity to get further rooted and expand even further. And I love that we could do that together. I missed you guys so much. I missed Smart Start. And I will see you tomorrow morning. But I'm going to head over on the Cheddar feed now and then for Between Bells. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Continue to write in about this, about the Van Gogh. Don't forget this amazing book. I have it in hard copy and in paperback and on my phone. And I will post another link to it if you haven't gotten it already, because as I say, the tagline for this book is, if you're interested in absolutely anything in life, read this book. Okay, guys, I will see you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for all of your comments. And they're just so good. They just add such depth to everything we're doing. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.